Hello, and welcome to our TikTok live / podcast, Transatlantic Watch Party. Nearly forgot what it was called then. I'm Cara, and this is Dan, but he's drinking some Coke, so that was the wrong time to try and introduce him.
Christmas-themed Coca-Cola, as we all know. Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus.
So. Yeah, I know, that's so weird. Yes, we are currently on the mid-season break from 911, which we've been watching together. And so in the meantime, we have begun to watch Pan Am. And today we are discussing Pan Am episode 2. We'll always have Paris. So general thoughts, Dan, how did you enjoy the episode?
I really liked it. It kind of subverted my expectations. I thought I had the formula figured out after the first episode. And that would be, it's about a crew on this plane. The plane will go back and forth on their trips, and then we'll meet new passengers as they come onto the plane, and we'll be brought into their world. And it's a good kind of storytelling device, I thought. But that's not really what happened in this episode. We spent some time on the plane, but it really had to do with the crew, specifically Margot Robbie's character. But most of it was just about the actual people working on the plane. We didn't really focus on the passengers at all in this episode. So maybe that's not the formula. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, also last week when we talked about the first episode, the people, the passengers that we focused on were directly linked again to the staff. So we had John and his wife and kid, and Colette had a little affair with John. Whether it was one night only, we don't know. And she didn't know he was married, and then he turned up, so we got that. And then the other passenger that we concentrated on was, of course, David Harbour,
right,
who was then connected to Kate. So I think that the passengers that we focus on might always lead to, because even the only other passenger we really spent any time with was creepy sexual assault guy. So that had to do with Maggie. So yeah. I think that it might always sort of connect directly to a member of staff.
That's fair. I just thought I'd figured it out and I was wrong, so never mind. But it was a good episode. I thought it was very, very lots of interesting things happened. It's interesting how this all plays out, like how they're depicting the 60s and this world. It's just a lot of fun. I just love that opening. It just, again, feels very authentic when you see all this stuff and Paris and all these settings in the 60s, right?
Yeah, it was weird because, I think I said last week that sometimes the show feels really authentic, and then suddenly you get a shot where it looks like they're all standing in front of a green screen, and it's a bit weird.
That's true.
And I felt like Paris was way more realistic than, not necessarily America, but certainly the airport. The airport feels really fake. And I think we got an opening, not opening credits, because they don't do a whole opening credits thing. But when the Pan Am symbol came in, and then we sort of panned down from that, and we got the airport, I'm sure we had little, the buggies that drive around with the luggage. And I was like, are they CGI? Because it just looked, and I kept going back, and it was on screen for half a second, and I was really trying to figure out, because it looked really fake.
I think that they probably are. I mean, I thought that about some of the shots of the plane in the last episode. I thought looked CGI, and I'm sure they are CGI. They're not going to use a real plane for this, but and it just, I guess, speaks to the time. I mean, it would probably look a lot more convincing now than it would back then. This is almost it's 13 years ago, so it's been a while. Yeah. But yeah, I guess. And then we start the episode with Dean cruising. And I love they really focus on that Pan Am building, right? That iconic building in downtown New York. And so you see him cruising up he's going through the park to go to work, we assume, and then he kind of happens to stop by, what's her name, the French stewardess, Colette, who's, I guess the cab is broken down. Is that what's happened there?
Yes, she's on her way to the airport. There was a confusing moment because you first saw him driving through New York, and it's very much that pilot as celebrity sort of feeling. He's in this open top car and he looks so sophisticated, and And then, so we're in New York, and then the next thing we see is a plane flying very low. And for a moment, I was absolutely terrified. But then we realized, we panned back to Dean, and he's he's obviously in the vicinity of the airport. But it took me a second. So yes, she's obviously trying to get to the airport as well. Her cab has broken down, and he offers her a ride. He pretends not to know her, and and they get quite flirty, and he offers her a ride, and then she agrees, but only if she can drive the car. And I love Colette. I think she might be my favorite.
Okay.
And and he was like, "Oh, do you have your license?" And she was like, "What license?" And then you just see the wheels squealing off.
I don't think she's an American citizen. Oh, she must be a citizen if she's got a job, or maybe not a Pan Am, but probably does have a driver's license. And then we go to the weigh-in room, so we get a little bit more of the situation where they have to weigh in, they have to maintain a specific weight, and they have this woman who keeps them on task. Margot
from Erin Brockovich continues to be mean.
That's right. And what's Margot Robbie's character's name again? I keep forgetting. Laura. She makes her feel bad for gaining a pound. She's like, "You've gained a pound," because they're talking about going to Paris. They're talking about trying all the food and everything they're going to try. And she's like, "You better only have one of those sweets. You've gained a pound." And then Christina Ricci turns around and just tears her and just says, "Why don't you step on the scale?" That was great. I love that moment. She's telling this woman to step on the scale and let's see how much you weigh.
I loved it. I wrote down the line because I loved it so much. But first of all, she's put on a pound. It might be that she's just not had a poo yet. Do you know what I mean? It's a pound. He says to her, "Do we need to have a conversation about changing your weight limit?" So obviously each individual air stewardess has a limit that they have to stay below. So, that sounds relatively progressive, I suppose, that they don't ask them all to be exactly the same weight. But still, oh my God, imagine just trying to go in and do your job. So then Maggie, she says, "Oh, it's your turn." And she goes, "Oh, well, please, after you." And she looks very surprised. And she said, "I assume that if there's an ideal weight for serving drinks, then surely there's an ideal weight for looking down one's nose." And I was like, pause, applaud. I absolutely love that.
And it just throws the whole thing, like, ideal weight for serving drinks. Are you kidding? This is ridiculous. It just kind of points out the entire thing is ridiculous. And I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever learn how long this practice lasted, but I can't imagine it lasting it very long into the 70s, at least as far as making women stick to a certain weight, right?
I don't know. There are so many airlines. Even these days, the idea is that the stewardesses have to be attractive, and and so that I wouldn't be surprised to find that there's somewhere, not necessarily in the United States or but somewhere, or even if it's not said out loud, there's definitely possibly still an idea that. But yes, I don't think in the US they'll be doing weigh-ins anymore. Except I was listening to an episode of Maintenance Phase, one of my favorite podcasts, and they were talking about these workplace wellness things that sort of came in America. And those workplaces started having weigh-ins, because you would get money off your insurance premiums if you maintained your BMI or reduced your BMI or whatever it was. And people were like, "Hey, I have an eating disorder. I don't really feel great being weighed in front of my colleagues." So they can do it anywhere. It doesn't even just have to be an airline.
Yeah, no kidding, eh? So it just kind of shows us the kind of bullshit they have to put up with, and as well. Again, I'm still bad for the names. Christina Ricci's character is Maggie. Thank you. To skip ahead a little bit, she has to go through it again with this drunk gropey guy who basically assaults her, full on assaults her, and then it kind of just gets swept under the rug. Like both times, that guy pops in, that the co-pilot shows up, and it's like he's saving her from getting into trouble, right? Because she's going to get in trouble. I guess the implication is she's going to get in trouble from the person with her supervisor. They're going to talk about it when she comes back. And then again, he says he saved her from being fired because he's going to complain about you. And it just kind of shows that these stewardesses have to put up with. Like, you have to put up with a lot of bullshit to do
Yeah.
that job. Right?
I did say by the end of the episode, I'd written down about 4 of Maggie's lines, and I just said, Maggie is knocking it out of the park. She had so many great lines in this episode. It's the first time that we've sort of concentrated on her a little bit. We didn't see much of her in the first episode. And we know that she's like a rebel, and she's probably like quite pretty feminist, and we'd seen she'd been grounded, so obviously they've taken her. She's got her job back normally now, so she's definitely somebody who doesn't stick to the rules. So we're not expecting her to be a quiet, polite little mouse, but to see her tell Ted what it's like, and literally stick it to the man when he was groping her, when she stabbed him with a serving fork or something. I can't remember what it was. It was a really good storyline, I thought, for Maggie.
I was a little surprised that I went there, because she was very outspoken and very vocal about it. And like the entire time, every time she comes into contact with this guy, she's shooting him dirty looks and making comments about like, she's reminding him what he did to her. And I didn't expect that to happen. I expected it to be swept under the rug, which I guess it kind of was. But like she can't stop feeling her feelings, right? Can't keep it inside. She has to express that.
Yes. And also for her, just to skip right to the end, because we're concentrating on Maggie, what she says to Ted is, because he's like, why aren't you grateful to me? Because he sends like some funny, like he sent her a donut up from room service, and it's got like a fork stabbed into it or something.
I get that.
And he thinks he's funny because she stabbed someone with a fork earlier, and she sort of explains to him the world that she works in. I know that we are men pay a lot of money to flirt with an attractive woman. But what you didn't save me from anything. You made it okay for him to try that again with another girl. And that was so brilliant, that she is, she's definitely thinking about other people, and I really, there's a point when Ted first intervenes on the plane, and he like offers the guy a drink, and he's like, oh, you go and serve him that drink, which is despicable, Ted. That's a horrible idea. And Ted says to her, I made him go away for the price of a drink. And she says, it cost a lot more than that. Like he's never gonna get it. Like he did not look good this episode, Ted.
No, he didn't. He was trying, but I think that I don't think it's intentional necessarily. I think he's just a product of his doing what he thinks is the right thing. And then of course the other storyline had to do with its sisters. Now, quickly, did Margot Robbie's hair get blonder in this episode from the last one?
Interesting. It might have done. There was definitely something different about it.
And if you look at the magazine cover, because I keep bringing that magazine cover back into it, it's definitely brunette, and I think she's definitely blonde now. And I think they made a choice between the pilot and the second episode to make her a little bit blonder. And I think the other sister is a little bit redder in her hair coloring, right?
I do think Kate might be a bit redder. You might be right about that. I never know how long they take between shooting a pilot and shooting the next episode, because they have to shop the pilot around.
Could be months, right?
So it might just be that like they'd gone and done another part, or you never know what's happened. I don't think Margot Robbie, I didn't think she was brunette, but maybe she was like a darker blonde, But what I did like was that they said, when it turned out that their mum was on the plane and she had been showing everyone this Life magazine, Kate says that her Life magazine is a month out of date. And I was like, oh, timeline. Because, I'm always complaining about how we never get a timeline on 911. And you never know if weeks have passed or half an hour. And I was like, yes, we know specifically that a month has passed since the first episode.
That's great. Yes, that is good. That helps a lot, right? And so you can see kind of because they also keep her flashing back to 6 months earlier, right? And stuff like that. So you kind of have to keep it all straight.
Yeah.
As far as those things goes. So yeah, the mom shows up on the plane. Now my comment here was there not another way she could have spoken to her daughter instead of just showing up on her plane while she's working? Like she's gonna expect her to stop her job and sit down with her and discuss their problems. I mean, I feel like that she should have reached out, like, and even she even says, Margot Robbie says, why didn't you call? I wrote you a letter, you didn't call. Like, why?
Yes, that is weird because I thought instantly when they found out that she was on the plane, I thought that she maybe had been calling and Laura hadn't been returning her calls and she's not close with Kate. So they obviously weren't
Right.
going to connect that way. You know, Kate definitely wasn't going to give Laura a message and be like, you need to call mom. So I kind of felt like, oh, you know, this is the only way she has to like trap them in a plane. So they have to
Yeah, and it did kind of make sense. They showed the flashback of them like right after they left her wedding and they're eating in a diner and they're figuring things out. And then the mom shows up there and she's like scorching, she's like hiding in the booth and then Kate goes out there to tell her off and to have a fight. And so they've clearly got history. Like those two they do not get along. And I think that Kate is really feeling like she's always felt jealous of her sister, right? She's always gotten more attention. Laura's always gotten more attention and been like the pretty one, even though they're both very pretty. That's kind of weird.
yes.
And so, but now, like I can really see this kind of family dynamic where now she feels that Kate or Laura's finally woken up to like how their mother is, right? And
Yeah.
this incident, like what happens throughout this episode of this thing is like, Kate warns her sister about it. And her sister said, no, we're fine now. Like they talk for 2 seconds and they made up and everything's okay. And she's like, can we upgrade her mom to first class and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you talking about? You weren't talking to her 2 minutes ago. Right. And maybe it's frustrating for her because she has such difficulty with it. Like how is it so easy for her sister to make up with her mom? And she can't. She has been like struggling with this for years. Right. So there's got to be that to it as well.
Yeah, and also I think she thinks certainly Laura is sort of more ensconced in the family dynamic than she is, and more malleable by their mother. And she says, because the mum's like, "I miss you," and I wrote down, "Ooh, mother's being nice." I did not see it for what it was, and she says to Laura, she's being manipulative. And then later on, we find out exactly how manipulative.
She's brought Greg.
She's brought Greg to Paris.
That must have been. Where was he flying by? Did he take a separate flight? I guess he must have, right?
Yeah, I wonder if he like flew out the day before or something. Because, it was absolutely outrageous. And I think, wait, what's the thing? Mum is being nice. Yes. Should we skip to then? We'll carry on with Laura's storyline. So she has like, because Maggie points out that family can fly free on Pan Am if you're a stewardess, and they're like, we're not going to tell her that. And then Laura's like, oh, maybe we can move her to first class. And Kate's like, you folded like a piece of paper. Can't believe it.
Right. Yeah.
And then they get to Paris and their mum has like booked a table in a restaurant or something. And Kate's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And Laura goes with her and they're walking down the steps in front of the Sacre-Cœur in Montmartre. I love Montmartre. It's such a fabulous place. And they, and she sees Greg standing further down the stairs with, a bunch of flowers. And she is mortified. She's absolutely devastated with her mom. And so she runs away. And then Greg comes to visit her in her hotel room and is very decent.
Yeah, it seems to be. I think I feel like the mom made him go. Like he wasn't really feeling like go. She was like, "No, you're coming back. We're gonna get you two together." And but the revelation that that really for the mom is just about getting her married and making sure, like, it's about how she looks. Really, it's about how the mom's status is and how, like, having her daughter actually get married and have children or whatever they're supposed to be doing. Sorry, I'm just gonna say I just addressed a comment here from Sandra. Hi, Sandra. And she's asking what show are we talking about. We were talking about Pan Am, season one, well, only season Pan Am, which is a TV show that aired in 2011, 2012, and stars Margot Robbie, Christina Ricci, and a few other people. It's actually, and I was telling the car today, it's actually available on YouTube for free. So you can just look it up on YouTube. It's really good.
Yeah. And I think, with Greg turning up, the main thing I noticed when Greg turned up is that Margot Robbie had an exceptional view of the Eiffel Tower outside of her hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
I think I said when they went to London, like, they get nice hotel rooms. And in Paris, we did see that they shared a room, but still, Margot Robbie's got a view of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, and that actually segues nicely into Dean's storyline, which is Dean is looking for his ex. What's her name again? Bridget.
Well done!
Yes, I'm getting them. I will get them eventually. So Dean is like, she's just disappeared and he's worried about her. And he asks, I don't know the French girl's name yet. Damn it. Sorry.
It begins with a C, Dan. Colette.
Okay, Colette. Oh, okay. I know Colette.
To be fair, Dean is the one I always forget, and I think you got that one nailed. So between us, we'll get through it.
Anyway, so he goes and asks her for help because he doesn't speak French. Now, he doesn't really tell her what this is all about. He says he's going to track down somebody that he met last time, and he can't remember where the club is, so he needs her help to go to the club. So she goes with him, and they're at the club, and then he really tells her that he's there to track down Bridget, and the guy who works here is like a friend of hers, and he needs her to help interrogate this guy and ask him where Bridget is, right? That's the whole premise here.
Yes. So, and the guy that he is talking to is a gentleman by the name of Gaspard, and he looks so French. There's something about, like, the suit and the cravat. He just looks really French. And he is obviously, as soon as because we've had a flashback to that club, and Bridget is fluent in French, and she's speaking to Gaspard, and obviously he's her connection in, you're like, oh, she goes, oh, he's an old friend, and you're like, spy, he's a spy.
The spies well. And I thought it was really clever how we kind of see at the part of the beginning where she gets the call from her father. It's her handler. So she has to go and she gets the package that she has to deliver to her contact on this flight. And they talk about the call, that the time, like, ask for the time, give them the time in military, right? You have to say, oh, it's 2200. And they say, oh, that's 9 o'clock. No, it's 10. And you have to, like, correct them when they get it wrong. Cause it's a very common thing for people to do, right? Especially in Europe. And so that's what they do. So they show us that at the beginning. And then later on, we see the flashback, we see that, oh, it's Bridget doing the same thing with this other guy. So I thought it was very clever the way they did that and let us know that that's going on.
Yeah, and also it made me doubt for a second about whether Gaspard was in fact her contact there.
Yeah.
Because we suddenly had somebody asking the time, and I was like, oh, is he the guy? But then we have another piece of information that he was in fact a British contact who was talking to her about something else, and Gaspard was the person that she, like, passed a parcel to.
Right.
But yes, I'm trying to think. I was going to say something about Bridget, but yeah, when they talk to Gaspard, when Colette is talking to him, of course he drops a bombshell, which I wrote down with a lot of question marks and exclamation marks. Bridget is married, which I don't think it's true. But
no, but yeah, but that's a bombshell for Dean, because he's like, what? Because he basically makes it seem like she goes and she has her boyfriends, but she loves her husband and she is married. And the premise of a secret husband, it makes sense. Like, he's not going to call out about it. Hey, I got her name. And she's like, it's the only way to keep working as a Pan Am stewardess because you can't be married. So if you're married, you have to lie about it and pretend that you're not. And then you have to lie about it to everybody. So that completely makes sense, right? So it's not even her fault for lying about being married, which she probably is not. But
so it was that's a really good cover.
Yeah.
Because what we discover then is, of course, the person that Kate is. I always want to call her Margot because that's who she plays in Lars and the Real Girl. But Kate has to deliver a package, and the person she's delivering it to is Bridget. So it turns out that the package that she's been given to deliver is her new identity, because Bridget did not comply correctly with one of her orders. She's not been forced into witness protection because she did something wrong, but she took it upon herself. She was meant to photograph someone at the airport. She missed the opportunity. She tracked him down and did it in public. And the British contact who caught her at the club told her she'd been compromised.
Right.
So that's it for her spy career. You know, they protect her at that point, and they give her a new identity. And so she's got a passport and a driver's license, and the driver's license says she is Elizabeth Reese from Kansas, Missouri. And she says, "Where's Missouri?" And I was like, is that still a British passport, or are you going to have to get yourself a Missouri accent?
Well, she's good. She can speak French very well. But I would say that she didn't seem very happy about it. Hey, like she was really upset that she's not in the game anymore, and that she's like going to be retired and living in Missouri now. It's like, what a boring existence.
I think it's yes, she's lost everything. You put your entire life on the line when you go into that business, because if you are compromised, everything, you have to give up everything. And so she says to Kate, "You've volunteered for this, so you can pull out. Just make sure that you are absolutely definite that you are happy to lose everything." And I wonder whether for Kate it feels a little bit like, that's not that much. I mean, she has Laura, but she doesn't really have a great, relationship with the rest of her family. So she might not be so, bothered about that. I thought it was interesting that they had the way she met her handler was they said there was a call for her. So she went to the phone and her handler was there. Because then Laura asked what the phone call was about, because they said it was her father, or she'd said it was her father. And she said, "Oh, he wants me to buy some cheese." So then Laura said to her mother, "Oh, remind us, we have to buy cheese for Dad." And her mum was like, "I don't think so." So already there are cracks,
Yeah. The lies are not going to hold up. It's interesting because I think that Kate really, like, this is starting to really mean something to her. And she's not dissuaded by this story of Bridget and her, failure or whatever happened there. She's like, even seemingly even more determined to make this work, to do this. And she seems to really want to be a spy. It's like giving her a purpose. Something beyond just the job of the Pan Am stewardess, which is not enough for her. Like, she's been doing it for a while. She's just kind of like, yeah, I'm used to this stuff. This is like old news now. And she wants something different.
And also, that was the thing that sort of set her apart from her sister.
Yeah.
And sort of one-upped her sister. Her sister was doing normal life and she was, globe-trotting and riding elephants and watching sunsets in Patagonia and doing all sorts of things. And now Laura is also a Pan Am air stewardess. So Kate is like, "Oh, now I need to," so the spy thing also gives her another edge over Laura. So she's not kind of in her shadow. Mm-hmm. But I thought the thing with her mum, like she had quite the storyline, the mum. She was a busy, busy lady, because first she was all about Laura. And then we saw a flashback, which was just Kate and her mum, which was very interesting because her mum was obviously not happy about her being a stewardess and she thought she was throwing away her education. And Kate was like, "I get to do all these amazing things." And her mum was like, "Those aren't nearly as exciting as you think they are. Like, it doesn't sound as great as you think it sounds." And I'm like, "It sounds amazing. What are you talking about?" And she throws it back at her mother. "You don't even have a passport." And then towards the end of the episode, after Laura has discovered that her mum is just manipulating her, so she's kind of done with her mum then turns up at Kate's door, hands her passport and says, check the date that it was issued. And it was issued just after after Kate had become a Pan Am stewardess. So her mum was kind of saying to her, this was her way of kind of saying, I was proud of it. Like.
I mean, it just seems the mom is more interested in the praise she's getting as the mother of two Pan Am stewardesses. Like she's now kind of has this elevated status with two of her daughters now Pan Am stewardesses. And the magazine cover is back home. Everyone loves her because of the magazine cover. So I feel like she's still all in it for herself. And when things go wrong with one daughter, she just turns and tries to make up with the other daughter. And that's classic parent behavior with like really not great parents like this. Yeah, that's classic.
And I was really upset that we didn't see Kate just like throw the passport back in her face and slam the door on her. I was slightly concerned that Kate might be swayed by this, despite never having been swayed before. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But I hope that Laura and Kate just sort of gang up on their mom and don't really hang out with her anymore. That would be nice.
Yeah. They don't need it.
And then, and then Dean sort of makes his way away from, heartbroken, makes his way, he's sort of lost in Paris.
Right.
And Colette finds him and he says, what's the French for lost? And she says, perdu. And I know that because it was one of the main French phrases that we learned at school. Je suis perdu, for when you inevitably got lost in France. And then someone would tell you where you were in French, and then you had to say, je ne comprends pas. I don't understand anything. They're really, really helpful phrases in French. I am lost. Please don't give me directions. I don't speak any French. And she says, no. Nous sommes perdus, which is we are lost. And then they end up like dancing in the street in Paris in a really like, romantic-y sort of way. So not sure how that's going to develop.
Well, it's going to develop romantically, I would imagine. But I thought it's interesting. Did they actually kiss? Because I don't think they did.
He kissed her hand.
Yeah, and he's drunk, right? They're both kind of drunk, so like they're not feeling the inhibitions or whatever. But and he's still certainly got a thing for Bridget, and she has a thing for him too. Like she's asking about him. That's something that I also found interesting. When Bridget is talking to Kate, she asked about Dean and made sure like is he okay and that kind of stuff. So clearly they still have feelings for each other, and he is going to feel torn if he's starting to feel things for Colette. He's going to feel torn between the two.
If he breaks Colette's heart, I will burn this whole thing to the ground. Okay. He does not deserve her. She is fabulous. She's just had her heart broken by this John guy and his wife who, blamed her for sleeping with him, even though he hadn't told her he had a wife. And now Dean, who is very much in love with Bridget, it's not going to end well for Colette, and I'm already sad about that.
I think that I feel like where I would take this is that because in TV there's like, or Hollywood and movie and TV in general, there's only like two ways relationships begin. That's either hot and heavy or slow burn. And this is a slow burn, right? This is like they're just starting to connect. They've got a couple nice moments. And now, like, they're going to start having more moments as the show goes on. Now, I don't know how far it gets. We can only have 14 episodes, so they might not have time to develop it fully. But that's certainly where I think they were going with that. And he would have to let go of Bridget. His thing would be like he's still in love with Bridget, but she can't. She's going to Wichita or whatever the hell she's going to. And I don't know, Kansas. Wichita's in Kansas, right? I don't know. No, you said Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas, Missouri.
Wichita is in Missouri. I knew that.
So she's going to Kansas, Missouri, which for me is very confusing because I don't know. Is Kansas also a state? I'm not like, I don't understand. There's so many places in America that seem to have the same name. They have the same name as like, our places as well, obviously. Like when they're in Connecticut, when Laura and Kate are always doing the flashbacks to Connecticut, I always wonder if it's Hartford, because that's literally where I'm from. I'm from Hartford in Cheshire. And I remember going over to America and finding, I think it was, do you remember? I don't. There was a book series called The Babysitters Club, which they made a film of a while ago, many, many, many whiles ago. And there was a series of books called The Babysitter's Little Sister, which was about one of Kirsty, I think, or something, but she had a little sister. And I was obsessed with those books because we found them in America when we were over there on holiday. And they were in Hartford, Connecticut. And I was like, so exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. Hartford, for me, Hartford, Connecticut will always be the home of the Whalers, which don't exist anymore. It's a hockey team that doesn't exist anymore, the Hartford Whalers.
Did they go bust?
No, they became another team. I don't remember which one. They moved to a different city. So you know how that works with the teams.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Can't remember what they went to. Anyway, back to the show. What else do we have to talk about here? What else is there happening?
I think we've covered that's all the plots, really. It's Dean and Colette, Laura, Kate, and their mom, Kate being a spy, and Bridget, and Maggie. Maggie, who I wrote down another of her lines, who said to the guy when he was first flirting with her, she said, "I am not included in the price of your ticket." And I was like, and she's like saying it with a smile on her face. The other thing I noticed was when they're serving the customers, the commuters, I suddenly can't remember what people on a plane are called, passengers. When they're serving them, everyone else is wearing the full outfit, so with the blue jacket, but Maggie doesn't, and I wonder if that's like a purser thing.
Yeah, she's got a different outfit. Definitely.
She's allowed to. Yeah, she's allowed to not wear her jacket, and I wonder if it's to make her obviously different from the rest of the staff. But the other
replying people what to do. Hey, she tells them. But she's nice about it. She's like, "Oh, someone's got to get back there." Like when they're like actively avoiding their mother, right? And so like so and so's back there all by herself, and so they have to kind of like, yeah, she's in charge.
Yeah, she's like the supervisor of the whole team, all 4 stewardesses. But the only other thing I wrote down was we got a title drop. The only good thing that Ted did in the entire episode was he dropped the title. I mean, and it's something, I was telling you about Anna and Steph, who I watch Lucifer with every week. That's a thing that we look out for because every title is in the episode, and we're always texting each other, "Title drop!" So I was very excited when Ted in the cockpit said, "Oh, like a 'we'll always have Paris' thing," and I was like, "Yay!"
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah, so I was really happy, and it made me wonder if we will get that in every episode, because obviously we didn't. I mean, we did probably have it in the pilot.
I said the word pilot in that first episode. I'm here, right? Chances are.
So that's something that we need to look out for in the next episode, is if they do another title drop.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm loving this. I think it's a great show. I was telling you in the comments we were chatting before, and I was frustrated because one of the reasons I suggested this show for us to watch in the interim for 911 is because I saw it on Tubi, which is a streaming service. Do you have Tubi? It's Tubi.
Yes, I think we do. Yes.
So I saw it there, and it was there. It was always there for months. I would just see the little thumbnail there, and Christina Ricci smiling, and all right, that seems interesting. And so when we were talking about the break and we could watch it, I looked and I saw it. I'm like, oh, we can watch this because I figured it's there on Tubi. I can just watch it, no problem. And so the day we started watching it, the first day I went to Tubi to watch the first episode, it was gone. It was taken off of Tubi. He's no longer on Tubi. And I was like, so they took down the rights to it. I'm like, oh, whatever. So then I'm searching and looking. I know.
You were about to watch it.
They knew you were going to do this. So then I'm like, okay, well, this is the world we live in, though, right? Where like nothing is, especially for a show like this, which is like not even a full season. Nobody really owns it. I don't know who owns the rights to it or whatever. But so what it ended up doing was I subscribed to another channel. It was like one of those Prime add-ons, and it was I think it's the Sundance channel. I think it's like the Sundance Film Festival channel.
Yeah.
which might be really good. I don't know. I actually have to look at it and see what else there is. But they, as part of whatever they have Pan Am there for some reason. So I was watching it, and then I found out this weekend that it's also on YouTube for free. So anybody could watch it. You don't have to subscribe to anything. It's just up there because I imagine they don't care about it because it's not on anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's I was talking to my mum about how, like, if you want something now, find it on DVD. If you can find it on DVD, I am back into like buying DVDs now because you can never trust that things are going to stay. Yes, absolutely. I did a thing because I when I got sick. Just a spoiler alert: people who don't know, I have chronic fatigue syndrome. So we used to live in London and have a lovely life, and now I moved back to Cheshire to be close to my parents and stay at home all day. Do you know what I mean? And watch TV when I can. So I did a big clear out when I sold my flat in London and came back here, and I got rid of most of my DVDs, and now I really regret it. So I'm just like basically finding the same DVDs and buying them back again. And any charity shop I go into, I know that you buy a lot from charity shops as well. But Mum really wanted the Christmas Chronicles, which is the Netflix films with Goldie Hawn. Yeah. And I found them, and I think they maybe did DVDs, but only in America.
Yeah. Or North.
So they didn't release it over here. So everything I found like a DVD of just the second film, and it was listed on like eBay for £90 plus like £12 shipping, and I was like, I don't think she wants it that much. But yeah, things like that are made for subscription services, I don't think, even like 911, there's no DVDs of 911.
Really? That surprises me. For a network show like that, I've seen them at Walmart. I've seen like NCIS and all the main like big shows. They always do DVD box sets. One place, I don't know what your library system is like here, but over here, our library gets copies of everything that's possible. Everything that's still released on DVD, they will get. And yes, I believe it is in North America. All of the streaming services still release like physical releases of their series. Like one I was thinking of was Raised by Wolves, which is an HBO series. Yes. That is on DVD. I could take that out of the library. So that was available. But also Christmas Chronicles and other Netflix shows as well. They do get released on DVD, but not very wide release, right? It's just like maybe for libraries, maybe for like Walmart or something like that. But that's pretty much it. They don't go into a lot of places.
Yeah, they don't do global sales, and that's interesting because they do a thing here on Sky TV. You can buy like a movie, and you can have it on your account, so you can always watch it. But they do also send you a DVD.
Oh, okay.
So if you don't have Sky anymore, you actually did buy the film. Because, of course, if you buy a film from Amazon, if you then give up your Amazon account, you don't have that film anymore.
Right. And that's, it's always frustrating.
You have access. So, yeah. So that's a much better deal, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah. So what else have you been watching? It's my weekly question.
I've been watching the new Star Wars series is out. It's on Disney Plus. It's called Skeleton Crew. And it's kind of, do you like Star Wars, Cara?
I do, but I've never watched any of the series. So I've seen all the films. That's a lie. I've seen the original 3. I saw the first one of the prequels, and then I didn't watch the other 2 because I didn't like the first one. And then I've seen all 3 of the sequels.
Newer ones, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they've done those 3, and then those weren't, like, the last couple of those films weren't really received well by the fans or by people. They're not great movies. And so they've been doing all these series. They've been doing The Mandalorian, and which has been that's probably the most popular one. The Mandalorian, and Grogu is, of course, Baby Yoda. Everyone loves him. And I think the best series they've released so far is Andor. It's based on a character from the Rogue One movie. And
Oh,
played
I haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't seen Rogue One, and I haven't seen Solo. I haven't seen like the spin-off movies.
it's like prequel. It's like before the Star Wars, right? And so
I've heard good things about that one.
I like them both, and I like Andor. I really like Andor. It's a really good movie. It has like almost it's like nothing to do with Star Wars. As it's just like just a cool story taking place in this universe, right? Which is a cool universe, but it's like
And Andor, is that wait, Endor is where the Ewoks are from, yes? Okay. Well, that's what I'd like. I'm an Ewok fan. I'll admit it. I will take that to my grave. I love the Ewoks. So I would like an Endor series.
well, they might. I mean, that wouldn't surprise me at all. This one, the Skeleton Crew one, is different from the other ones because, first of all, it has what I think is the closest depiction to like the real world, our world in Star Wars. The setting is like this very much this suburban garage. It's like an 80s, it's like Goonies or Stranger Things kind of thing where a bunch of kids riding around their hover bikes. Some of the kids are aliens because of Star Wars, and then they find something buried and it turns out to be a ship that they dig up, and then of course they turn it on and it flies off and takes them off into adventures. So that's what it is. It's kind of like I thought we all assumed it was going to be Stranger Things because of all the kids, but it is turning out to be more like Treasure Island because there's this pirate aspect of it that I really like. And they find this droid on the ship and they have to activate him, and he talks like Long John Silver, and I kind of love it.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I like that. And this is it real people or is it an animated series?
Well, it's real people. Jude Law is the big star. Jude Law is he wasn't in the first two episodes very much, but he is like the main adult character in it.
Right, okay. Yeah. No, it's all about the kids. We don't need much of Jude Law. We don't need much of Jude Law to make us happy. That's fine. Just a soup's on. A little bit of Jude Law is a treat. That'll keep us going for a while.
How about you? What have you been watching?
I just watched the whole of Man on the Inside, which is on Netflix, which is by the guy who did The Good Place.
Okay.
And it stars Ted Danson, and it is a sitcom about a retired gentleman who is living a very isolated kind of life because his wife died last year, and he lives 2 hours away from his daughter, and he doesn't seem unhappy, but so his daughter says you should find a hobby, when you do something, get back out into the world. And he answers an ad in the paper for an undercover assignment. So it's a private investigator who's been asked to find out about the robbery of this woman's necklace. And this woman is in an assisted living facility. Okay. So he is the man on the inside for her. He checks into this place. And the first episode, I was like, okay. And the beginning of the second episode, where he's like being bad at everything, because this guy is obviously, he's not a spy, and he's really bad at like pretending to take photos of people, and he's always constantly drawing attention to himself, so his training doesn't go very well. But it very quickly, like halfway through episode 2, I was so in love with it. It is so lovely. I laughed so hard and I cried so hard. It was absolutely brilliant. Plus, it's just this brilliant cast of older actors, and I love seeing those kind of people as the central focus of a show because we have so many shows about hot young people, and I adore seeing something different, so I was just in love with all of them. And yeah, and I was so pleased that I watched it. I binged the whole thing in like 3 days. It's only 8 episodes, but that was really good.
Ted Danson has a podcast. Hey, were you aware of that?
No, I was not.
Yeah, it's called Where Everyone Knows Your Name. So it is based on the Cheers thing, and he occasionally has Woody Harrelson co-host with him. But I guess Woody Harrelson isn't as dependable as he is, or something like that. I don't know. The schedule is all over the place. So every episode is Ted Danson, and every once in a while Woody Harrelson comes in. Like when they had Kelsey Grammer come in and they talk about Cheers and that kind of stuff. So he'll come in for that. But basically, Ted Danson is like the host of the show, and he just has people on to talk about stuff. And I didn't see this episode, but I've seen a thumbnail of it, and I wanted to click on it, and I will click on it later. And it is Ted Danson interviewing Greg Shore, is that his name? Greg Shore is the showrunner.
Mike Shaw.
Mike Shore, yes, Mike Shore. Greg somebody else. Greg Daniels is the other guy. They used to work together. Greg Daniels and Mike Shore. I think they did like Brooklyn Nine-Nine together.
Oh wow! Oh okay.
I think this guy is also Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but then The Good Place, where he worked with Ted Danson. Of course, Ted Danson's in The Good Place, and then they've done this show together. So that is his latest guest on the podcast. You might enjoy that.
Yeah, I should listen to that. Because the thing was that like Ted Danson was he's still such a fox. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was googling.
Fair wig. He used to wear a toupee and be super sensitive about his hair because he was bald, and maybe he's had plugs now. Maybe I heard this rumor that everyone in Hollywood's getting plugs. It's the latest trend.
Would not surprise me. They're excellent. Like Wayne Rooney had them, the footballer in the UK, and fantastic head of hair now. But so I did not know that. And there's a joke there's a thing in the show where one of the ladies asks him if it's his own hair, and maybe that's an inside joke that I didn't pick up on. But yeah, so I was googling him from things like I was like looking him up, 3 Men and a Baby. So I was like, like he was that was 3 hot men, looking after a baby in the 80s, and I was a child, but I was obsessed with Steve Guttenberg. So he was fantastic. One of my first celebrity crushes was Steve Guttenberg. And yeah, he's just so good. And there are a number of like Good Place cameos. So every now and again somebody pops up and you're like, oh.
Well, that's so awesome. I'm going to check that out. I haven't seen all of The Good Place. I've watched some of it. I have gone through all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine and a couple of other guy shows. So I'll add that to the list. I'll check it out. I have seen it kind of advertised at me on Netflix, and I just kind of ignored it. So,
yeah, it's such a quick watch, because it's only 8 episodes and they're, like barely half an hour. So that was really good. I'm still watching Deadwood. I am now into the 2nd season of Deadwood, and I'm very angry with it because they have just, I don't know, am I allowed to spoil it for you? Are you ever going to watch it? No. They have just killed a child, and I believe they have killed a child because plot, and I'm not happy about that.
No, that's not a good reason. That's not a good reason at all. Never a good reason to kill a child, but
yeah, and it's so sad. I did not see it come. Like, you knew it was coming, like something bad was going to happen. It was all building up. You were cutting between the different things were going to come together and something bad was going to happen. I didn't think they were going to kill the kid. I was so upset. But also you mentioned in one of your movie question videos, I think it was the question was who was in Ed Wood and Ed TV.
Oh yeah.
And you were worried it was going to be Jeffrey Jones, and you were like, I don't want to talk about Jeffrey Jones. So I googled Jeffrey Jones because I didn't know who he was, and obviously we don't want to talk about Jeffrey Jones, but he's in Deadwood.
He's in a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
he's one of those actors that was in a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but
yeah. So I was quite enjoying him until I googled.
Sorry about that. Something's better not to know, right? The history of these actors.
Yeah, it's better to just assume everyone is terrible.
Well, yes.
And then, just carry on. It's okay. So yes, so I am sort of 2/3 of the way through season 2 of Deadwood. What's weird is they had a character in the first series who was played by Garrett Dillahunt, and then in the second series, he's come back, but he's a different character. And it wasn't like his character in the first series wasn't important. He played a big part in, he killed Wild Bill Hickok. It was a big deal. And then in the second series, he's a really, really central character. And I'm just like, is everyone not looking at him going, you look strangely like Jack McCall?
Well, it's very unusual for a show to do that, right? Can't think of another instance in which an actor is. I mean, Star Trek did it all the time, but that kind of stuff is just like guest actors. To have somebody be a central role and come back as a different character, that's weird. Was the first one killed? First character killed off?
Yes. Well, he killed Wild Bill Hickok, and then they took him to because Deadwood famously doesn't have any laws. That's why people like to move there. And so they took him to another town to get justice. You know, two characters went and tracked him down because he ran away. So, yes, he was like, but because I didn't know whether he died, when this other guy turned up, I was like, has he reinvented himself? You know, like now he's a really successful, like it's really weird. But apparently there's 3 seasons in a movie, not 6 seasons in a movie, 3 seasons in a movie. And in the movie, Garrett Dillahunt is in it again, but he's just like drunk number 2. So
there must be
they obviously just liked him, and it was like an inside joke to just keep getting it back. So it was weird. So yes, those are my current watches.
Awesome. All right. Well, I guess we should wrap it up. Thank you again for another lovely afternoon talking about TV.
Yeah, I love talking about TV with you. So if you have made it to the end, or if you just joined us in time for us to leave, you can find this. Dan turns it into an audio podcast and puts it onto Spotify. So
yeah, it's not just Spotify; it's also Apple Music and anywhere you get your podcasts. Really, you can listen to.
That's very exciting. I know that. So yeah, anywhere you get a podcast, you can find Transatlantic Watch Party. And if you have somehow stumbled across this live and you don't know who either of us are, I am A Quiet Life with Me. Dan is Dan Watches Movie. Dan watches movies, not a singular movie. That would be weird. Just one movie over and over again. He's getting really into it. And we are on TikTok, and Dan does a brilliant daily film quiz where, you know, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I got my first 4 out of 4.
That was amazing. I'm gonna have to find that card and frame it or something.
To me. Because I am not good, because it's all the 90s, and I'm like, and what was amazing was the first question was who was in a film I had never heard of, St. Elmo's Fire and The Outsiders. I have seen none of those films, but I still knew it was Rob Lowe, so I felt very proud of myself for that. Yes. So those cards are never good to me, and I will never get a 4 out of 4 again, so I'm very proud of myself.
All right. We gotta go. See you later.
Yeah, see you next week. Bye.